Okay, no homework. Quick review. So Iyov responded. So Eliphaz argued, "Why is Iyov suffering?" One sentence answer. He's not such a great person, right? He sinned and he deserves it. And Iyov's basic, or what were the elements of his response to Eliphaz?
I am a tzaddik.
I am a tzaddik. Your logic is flawed. Yeah, okay, good. And he specified how, right? Is I have a tzaddik, I can't do tshuva because I'm in too much pain. You're only harming me, but you're not helping me. You're not offering any actual particular guidance about what I should do tshuva for. There's no afterlife. He denied olam haba. It's ridiculous to say God cares about my actions. He denied hashgacha. Okay, good. Or not good that he denied hashgacha, but then we pointed out some additional flaws, is that Eliphaz is holding him to an impossible standard, saying that, like, if only you were more righteous, then God wouldn't have done this to you. But then he also simultaneously says the angels are not righteous, and they can't satisfy God's demands. So, like, it sounds like nothing Iyov would have done could have helped him. Okay, hold on, this is annoying me. Hide video panel. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Show video panel. Hide floating meeting controls. Okay. Furthermore, he said, we said the burden of proof is really on Eliphaz to show that no tzaddik has ever been unjustly punished, right? He can't tell Iyov, Iyov have to prove to me that no tzaddik has been punished. And furthermore, he's committing the no true Scotsman fallacy, which is, if Iyov, let's say Iyov finds an example of someone who is righteous and suffered, what's Eliphaz going to automatically say? That must not be a true tzaddik. And that's what happens with Iyov. He says, look at me, Eliphaz, I didn't sin. And Eliphaz is saying, nope, you must have sinned. So Eliphaz is not actually open-minded. Okay, so today we get to the next friend, Bildad, okay? And this is shorter and it is more cryptic, okay? So let's do what we did last time. We'll read and then summarize as we go, okay? Who wants to start us off today? Okay, go ahead, Emily.
Okay, Bildad of Shua then answered, saying, how much longer will you continue to speak such vain thoughts? Your words are so much
wind, yeah.
Would God prevent judgment?
Not prevent.
Would the Almighty prevent justice?
Okay, so first of all, what's the contemporary way of saying your words are so much wind?
Like you're just talking.
Yeah, but there's a modern idiom that people use. No. Have you ever heard people say you're full of hot air? Yeah. So it basically means that you got no substance, right? You're not saying anything of importance. So far, what point? What do you see about what Bildad believes happened or didn't happen to Iyov here? Like, what's his what can we infer from these three pesukim here?
God is, according to him, God is just.
God is just. Okay, right, good. Which must mean
that Iyov must have.
Seemingly, right? It sounds like God is just, and then he's punishing Iyov accordingly. So it sounds like so far. So far it sounds like he is taking Eliphaz's track. Okay, and we'll see. He does agree with Eliphaz that God is just and he punishes. Okay, then go one more sentence, Emily.
If your children sinned against him, they were undone by their own transgression.
Okay, so now what is he saying?
That your children are you're not responsible for your children's death.
Okay, good. And therefore, what statement is he making about Iyov's children?
They were sinners.
And therefore,
they
deserve to die. Okay, very good. So he's saying, this is why your children died. They must have sinned, and their death was their punishment. So far, indistinguishable from Eliphaz. Okay, but now he makes a change. Okay, who wants to take over? Go ahead, Leah.
Okay, now, if you were to entreat God and plead with the Almighty, if you are truly pure and upright, then he will respond to you and restore your righteous home. Though your earlier experience was painful, in the end, you will flourish and succeed.
All right, now this does also sound like Eliphaz, because Eliphaz had a similar statement at the end. But what he's saying is there's a subtle difference here that makes him drastically different from Eliphaz.
He could do tshuva.
Eliphaz also encouraged him to do tshuva.
He's not denying that he was bad. He's just saying, like, okay, so you're good. So
yes. Okay, good. So the key word here is if you are truly pure and upright. Okay, meaning, unlike Eliphaz who said you are not pure and upright, Bildad is saying, okay, fine. I'm willing to accept the fact that you are pure and upright. Okay. And then what is he saying is going to happen in the future?
You'll get what you deserve, which is good.
Yes, you'll get the good, okay, which you deserve. So Hashem is making you suffer to benefit you in the future. And he's saying, let's assume you did not sin and you really are righteous and you're not being punished. Okay, your kids, they died because they deserved it. But fine, we'll assume that you're not being punished. Okay.
So what is he saying about God?
So what is he saying about God? So this is a theory which you might have heard before. Okay. So why is God bringing suffering onto him?
Because you're just part of a larger world.
No, that is we'll see that later on. That's true. So that's why they died. But why does Iyov have to suffer? What's God's purpose in making Iyov suffer? Okay, good. Well, that's part of when we dissect Bildad's view. That's a subtle part. His general answer, and we'll get you guys are giving good specifics. Okay, is Hashem brings suffering upon tzaddikim to increase their reward. Okay, he's making you suffer now in order to reward you in the future. Okay, have you ever heard people say this as an explanation for suffering? Yeah, right. This is a very common one. In fact, there is a Hebrew term that some people attach to this type of afflictions. I don't know if it's something that you were taught before. Yisurin shel, you heard Yisurin shel ahava, afflictions of love. So it's a term that Chazal use. I'm not saying that Bildad is using it in the same way Chazal does, but it's this notion that like sometimes someone will be righteous and God will make them suffer in order to give them reward in the future. Okay, not as a punishment, but as a means of reward. Which, even though we haven't read Iyov's response yet, what's your question going to be like on such a claim?
I already should deserve reward.
Okay, good. If Iyov is righteous, then like shouldn't I get rewarded in any way, right? Okay, good. Any other problems with this notion?
We need to increase our reward without me having suffering.
Okay, right. Why is the suffering necessary?
It doesn't even seem just in the first.
And it doesn't seem just. Okay, good. Iyov is going to ask all these questions. Yeah. Okay, good. All right, so that's just a preview. All right, but let's go on. Sorry. But then he has a condition here, okay, which I think this is what you meant when you said doing tshuva. However, this compensation, this distributing of reward will only take place if you remain strong and trust in Hashem. So that's part of the deal here is if you deny God or you blaspheme God or you fall apart, so then God will not reward you, okay? And so there he is encouraging Iyov to like stay strong. Okay. All right. So yeah.
Because Iyov already rejected, and he kind of ruined this for himself, so he'll never be able to get the thing that.
I guess Bildad is saying though, if you, there's still time to turn around. You know, like if you act well now. All right, but you're saying he has no proof for it, right? So remember, what was Eliphaz's proof? What did he cite as proof for his view? Okay, so that's his right. That's his argument. What was the source of Eliphaz's insight into Iyov? What claim did he make? He got a vision, a mystical vision. Remember this? Yeah, okay, right. So now Bildad is going to say, go ahead, Leah. Verse 8.
Okay. Please inquire for our earliest ancestors and comprehend for yourself that which their fathers revealed. For we were born only yesterday and cannot know. Our days on earth are like a fleeting shadow. Indeed, they will entrust and inform you.
They will
instruct and inform you and bring forth words from their heart.
Okay. So what is Bildad claiming is the source of his view? Yeah. And what do we call knowledge that you get from your ancestors? Masorah. Okay, good. So he's saying, how do we know this is true? It's in the Masorah. It's tradition. Right. This has been passed down from generation to generation, and therefore, like, who are we to question? We were only born yesterday. Okay, so that's his argument. So he's not quite claiming that he got a mystical vision, but he is claiming that this is coming not from his own mind, but from the Masorah. Okay. Okay, then he makes one more point, which is kind of weird. It's hard to figure out. In all my years of teaching Iyov, I've only had one student who was able to figure out what this metaphor is. Okay, so let's see if we get this here. Okay, so here's what he says. Someone else want to take over? Yeah, go ahead, Eliana.
Can marsh grass flourish in the absence of moist earth? Can reeds thrive in the absence of water? While still rich in moisture, it cannot be plucked. It withers before any other grasses. This is what happens to those who
Okay, good. Keep going.
other grasses will retain their moist freshness in the sun's heat and will sprout young shoots in any kind of garden. It If its roots become entangled in a pile of stones, or if it borders on a stone house, it prevents its roots from spreading, it may be so completely uprooted from its place of origin, will deny ever having seen it. It will then be diverted towards a more favorable path where it will grow freely in a different kind of soil.
Okay, so this is this mushal about grasses, okay? And we got to figure out what it means, okay? So just to isolate the elements of the mushal here, so he's saying marsh grass is one type of grass. And he's asking, can marsh grass flourish in the absence of moist earth? Can reeds survive in the absence of water? These are rhetorical questions. While still rich in moisture, it cannot be plucked. It withers before any other grasses. But then he says, other grasses will retain their moist freshness in the sun's heat, blah, blah, blah. So the question is, what is this mushal for marsh grasses and other grasses? And what does this have to do with Iyov and with Bildad's message to Iyov? And bear in mind, by the way, there may be several interpretations of this mushal. And remember, we're going according to the Malbim. Okay, so you might have good ideas, but I'm just going to reveal the Malbim.
It sounds like he's saying that the moist grasses are like the average person.
Okay.
It isn't like a tzaddik because they can't like handle the suffering really.
Okay, good.
But then the tzaddik, he can handle the suffering, like he'll still withstand it. Kind of like the other grasses.
Okay, good. So I'd say
kind of like surface level, but.
Oh, no, it's a good half approach in the sense that he's clearly saying that the marsh grasses are like the not excellent person or the not tzaddik, and the other grasses are the tzaddik. Okay, but now what's the mushal of the moist earth or the water? Because I don't think that would mean the suffering, because that's not really like it seems like it's a good thing, right? You know, moist earth and water is like stuff that plants like. So what is that a mushal for?
God's obvious involvement.
Okay, can you be more specific? You're right, but can you be more specific?
Will they not understand? Will they acknowledge God if he's not obviously involved?
Okay, that's definitely possible. But then you're gonna have a problem when you go to. Oh no, it works out. So then how would you explain the other grasses then in the sun's heat?
Even in a condition like the sun's heat, where like God isn't really so involved, they're still able to thrive and like.
Okay, good. That's a good one. And then what? So what is his practical message to Iyov then, based on this?
That even if he doesn't see God's direct involvement in his life, he feels like God just kind of left him.
Yeah.
That it's really because he's so great that God doesn't need to be so involved.
Okay. That's a good interpretation. Now, it's different than the Malbims, but it is a good interpretation. Okay. Anyone else have another? Yeah.
But I have a question on that. Is he saying that Iyov might have sinned, or I mean, I know he's not the one saying that Iyov did sin, but now it kind of sounds like he's praising Iyov by saying, "Oh, you're so like." If we go with that, then like saying, "Oh, he's so good that Hashem like didn't mind like leaving or not leaving."
Sorry, I just missed your question. Say it again.
Like, if we go with this, and that means that kind of like this friend is praising you, saying that, oh, like, you're so great, like, you're one of the other grasses.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's a good reason, switching to rhetorical analysis mode. Why would he be praising Iyov for saying like you're one of the other grasses? How's that going to help advance his argument? Then I'll listen to him, right? So he's trying to be encouraging. Well,
God's not saying that he's all the most righteous.
Well, he is, I think, right? Because he's saying, yeah.
He's saying like sometimes you might like be like pushed out of your original place, like where you are right now, but you'll go to an even better place, a more favorable place, just like that grass that'll get like diverted.
Exactly, and he's saying that he's agreeing with you that you didn't sin, and that's why God is like giving you these extra rewards, but he's only doing it through punishment.
Makes no sense because why would God want to be more involved with someone that isn't following his ways? I don't know. It seems counterproductive. God doesn't need you to follow him.
Right. Well, so I think just to clarify Bildad's argument for that part, at least, sounds like what he's saying is the way it was supposed. Okay, what was supposed to happen when God did this to Iyov, according to Bildad? Like, what would have been the ideal course of events? So God destroys Iyov's stuff and his house and everything.
He'll realize God is so amazing.
And then what does Iyov do?
Follow God more.
He follows God even more, and then God rewards him even more, right? So like what happened is like Iyov didn't do that, and Bildad's saying, no, come on, Iyov, if you get back on track, then there's still hope that this will happen. Yeah. So this is similar to what Elisheva said, but this is slightly different. The Malbim says, okay, so I guess I don't know what landscapes you guys are familiar with. Us Far Rockaway people are familiar with swamps because we live in a swamp, okay? Marsh grasses, they need a lot of water, okay? What would be a good thing of the opposite of a marsh grass that we could relate to? Cactus, okay, right? So I happen to have been raised in a desert, okay, and a lot of cactuses, Yakima, Washington, right? So in Yakima, then it was a desert, and there were a lot of these like cactuses, or I mean not cactuses like the Arizona cactuses, but like things that thrive in the dry environment. So if you take marsh grasses, okay, and that have been raised in moist earth and have a lot of water, and you plant them in dry climate, what happens? They die, right? Because they need a lot of water.
Yeah.
But if you take a cactus and you put it in an area that doesn't have a lot of water, what's it going to do?
Right.
It's going to thrive because it knows that it needs to conserve water and be able to thrive even though there's no water there. So can you think of another candidate for what is this water a mushal for? And again, I'm not saying this is disagreeing with Elisheva, but like Elisheva said Hashem's involvement, what specific aspect, and you got here's the hint, think of Iyov's history. Good stuff, right? So Hashem gave Iyov all these brachos, right? He blessed him with all this wealth and health and happiness. So that's compared to the water, okay? And the marsh grass, the moist earth. And Iyov was flourishing in that, but now the question is, was he flourishing it like a marsh grass, or was he flourishing in it like a grass that can, like a plant that can survive without that water? If he was like a marsh grass, so then when God uproots him from it and puts him into a scenario where he doesn't have these benefits, he's gonna die. But if Iyov tries to be like another type of grass that doesn't need all that water, then even when God uproots him from it and puts him into another environment without water, then he will survive the sun's heat and be able to flourish still.
He's assuming that just because Iyov is tzaddik or whatever, then God is just automatically gonna do hashkafa for him all the time. He's just saying it just happened to work out in your favor.
So Bildad himself is unclear, and you're going to see that the Iyov's response to Eliphaz was a point-by-point breakdown. The style of Iyov's response to Bildad is, I have no idea what you mean. And he'll say, if you mean this, then here's my problem with it. And if you mean this, here's my problem with it. You mean hashgacha?
Hashgacha.
Yeah.
Hashgacha, or if he's talking about just good stuff happening.
So I think he's talking, according to the Malbim, he's talking specifically about the brachos that Iyov received, all of the health and wealth and happiness.
So he's saying that God, if you're a good person, whatever that means, then God will just intervene and constantly give you good.
He's saying that if you're on the, so I think he's agreeing with Eliphaz that God rewards good and punishes evil. But if you're on a supreme level of righteousness, then sometimes God will uproot you from your good. And if you prove that you're still righteous despite that, then he will make you even flourish even more.
I was thinking of it like the moist grass,
Let me actually just put up the summary here. Yeah, go ahead.
Is like a regular person. Tzaddik, like Iyov, like he's saying, oh, Iyov, you're a tzaddik, and you have been put in a situation where you don't have, what's the grass one? Like they uprooted from their place of origin.
You only have good in your life.
And they go on a more favorable path. Like to them, it's more like because they're a tzaddik and they know how to like think in line with reality, but they've been distorted a little bit. So they're on a path that's wrong, but it's favorable to them.
So I think underlying both of your questions, okay, let me ask you another question. Who does Bildad sound like? Like who made an argument like this before? No?
A little bit.
I'll give you a hint. It wasn't human. The Satan, right? It's very similar to the Satan's thing, which is that your righteousness was only because God was favoring you so much.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was from, but I was
right. So Bildad is basically saying, I mean, it sounds like he's saying that in a sense, but then it also sounds like he's acknowledging that Iyov really is pure and righteous. So then the Satan was questioning Iyov's righteousness, saying it wasn't really real. And Bildad saying, no, it is real, but in order to level up, then God, then God has to uproot you and put you in a situation of deprivation and pain. And then if you remain steadfast, then he'll reward you even more. No, he's not. Yeah.
I don't see the parallelism between this and this.
Because the Satan was saying it was an accusation. Iyov is only being righteous because God shielded him and blessed him, right?
Okay.
And Bildad is saying God uprooted you from this stuff, and if it turns out that you were only righteous because God had blessed you, so then he's not going to reward you. But if you show that you are still righteous despite the fact that you are in a situation of deprivation, then God will reward you even more. Oh, I said both of them. I'll say it again.
Wait, how did I miss the first one?
The Satan said the only reason Iyov is righteous is because God blessed you, and therefore if God takes away the blessings, then that'll reveal that Iyov is not righteous.
I thought the Satan in a different story.
Oh no, I'm talking about our Satan here.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. All right. One more point. Who was reading? Eliana, you want to read the last 3 psukim, 20 till the end?
Surely God will not scorn the innocent, nor support the wicked. Ultimately, your mouth will fill with laughter and your lips with triumph. Your enemies will be clothed in shame, and the tents of the wicked will disappear.
Yeah. Okay. So this is not such a new point, but what is he saying is going to happen? Yeah, everything will work out good, right? Trust in Hashem, he'll restore you. He'll give you all this good stuff, okay? So if we had to summarize Bildad's answer in one sentence, why is Iyov suffering?
To give him even greater reward.
Yeah, to give him a reward. Now, you said it's a test, right? So this is going to be part of what Iyov is saying. It's like, he's going to tell Bildad, like, what exactly do you mean? Are you saying God's testing me? Are you saying God is like, Ayala, did you say to get Iyov to daven to him? Yeah, right. So he's going to go through all these possibilities. Like, what exactly is your mechanism here, man? Like, what are you claiming exactly God is doing? Okay, so the summary, just to visually depict this, you don't have to draw it out. I'll print this for you at some point. So, triple Venn diagram. Ooh, okay. Iyov, Eliphaz, Bildad. What do they all agree with? Hashem exists.
Oh, really?
Yep. What else do they agree with?
That what
Hashem
happened to
is
him is
just.
bad.
Ah, interesting. Okay, so I hear what you're coming from. I don't know if Bildad would call it. I mean, he'd call it bad and he mean it, right? But he's really saying it's for his good. But you're right. I guess I could add that there. Yeah, I could add that there. What else do they agree with about Hashem? Say, I didn't hear you.
God is just. Isn't that what
Yeah, God is just. Okay, good. He's perfect and injustice is a flaw. I divided that into two, right? Is that he's perfect and therefore he cannot do injustices. And if he did injustices, then he would not be perfect. Okay. So then Iyov. Yeah, that's one of the problems with Bildad, because you're saying this is unjust. Yeah.
Injustice is what's happening here. Because he's assuming that if your life isn't good right now, but you're a good person, your life has to get better or it's not just.
Right. But Iyov, though, does not hold that, right? Yeah, okay, right. So Iyov denies Hashgacha Pratis, and he believes in strict determinism or chance or astrology, depending on like who you hold by. And Bildad and Eliphaz, they believe in Hashgacha Pratis and they deny determinism. Okay. But now we get to their individual things. So Eliphaz said, what is the opinion that is unique to Eliphaz? You sinned and therefore you're suffering, right? So he brought, Yisurin, by the way, means afflictions, okay? And I'm using the word afflictions and onesh differently. Afflictions just means pain. Onesh means punishment, like you did something wrong, okay? So Hashem brought Yisurin upon Iyov as a punishment. Bildad, he holds what? You didn't sin. Hashem brought Yisurin upon you to increase your reward, okay? Now, here's where it gets a little tricky. What do Iyov and Eliphaz have in common? And this, you got to think outside of the box. Close. They both hold that Yisurin would be for what reason? For sin. Good. So they both hold that if Hashem brought Yisurin on someone, it would only be as a punishment. So Eliphaz looks at that and says, oh yeah, see, Hashem's bringing Yisurin on you. He's punishing you. Iyov looks on that and what does he say?
I'm not guilty.
Hashem, say it again? Hashem must not be bringing this upon me, because the only reason Hashem would bring it upon me is if it were punishment and I know I didn't do anything wrong. Okay, but you see that in principle, they agree with this, that if God were involved with people and brought afflictions, then that would be as a punishment. But Iyov just denies and says, like, I didn't do anything wrong, so God must not be involved with people.
That God does things just for them. That they're like kind of.
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
But he denied Hashgacha Pratis, and that would reinforce the idea of Hashgacha Pratis.
Right. That's why I'm saying if he were to bring Yisurin upon people, but Iyov does end up denying it. In other words, and Iyov himself, if you ask Iyov, why do you deny Hashgacha Pratis, what would Iyov say to you?
Because I'm a tzaddik and I was.
Yeah, and that the only way that I could have suffering if I were a tzaddik and have Hashgacha Pratis would be if I did something wrong, and I didn't do anything wrong. Yeah. Now, where do Iyov and Bildad agree?
That he's a tzaddik.
Yes, that he's a tzaddik. Okay, is that they agree that Iyov didn't sin, and that they agree that his yisurim are not punishments. His yisurim he is being afflicted. Bildad says it's from God and it's to increase your reward. Iyov says it's from the constellations and the stars and it's predetermined.
Why do these two people deny Yisurim?
Because they hold by Hashgacha Pratis that God is involved in stuff, and it's not just like left to chance.
So Iyov, why had the two going in?
Because chance means that it's not directed from anything. It's just random. Or if it's by astrology, that means that God is not intervening. For example, we hold that there is such a thing as nature, but we don't hold that everything is determined by is strict determinism. We hold that God can intervene and rewards and punishes. Yeah, there's both. Yeah.
I thought astrology was
so modern day astrology emphasizes personality, but strictly speaking, astrology is that if you're born under a certain constellation, then the constellation determines what personality you're going to have. So it goes back to like the celestial forces determining you. Yeah, when you read a horoscope in the newspaper, the only thing people are interested in is in the personality, and they don't really even. I think if you ask the average person what is a horoscope, I don't even know how many people like are aware that it came from a belief that the stars determined your fate. Like I think they just view it as like you're born.
The star chart with the rising and Venus. And
yeah, right. But people don't actually like care about it. They care about the personality prediction or whatever, you know. Yeah. Okay. Let me just see here.
So we're saying that Iyov doesn't believe that Hashem is still involved in the world, but he doesn't believe that Hashem intervenes.
Correct. Right. Remember that's Iyov's whole position. Is he denied? Remember when you did the 6 premises thing?
He denies that Hashem like intervenes like period, or like that he intervenes in this.
Period.
But isn't that like a thing against
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that what we say heretics?
Yes. Did you miss the entire 2 weeks where we talked about this? Right? Remember, you don't remember this. Let me refresh your memory. Right? Is that there were? Well, I have it on the computer, I believe, from long ago. Even though we did this before we moved inside. Before we moved inside. Yeah. Hold on. I just want to show you the specific thing. 16th is when we first mentioned this. I'm thinking of one specific slide. This. No, not this.
Oh, yeah.
This, right? So this was. Yeah, how can we be learning from him?
He's literally like denying a fundamental.
Yeah, so how can we be learning from him? Because we're learning why he was wrong. Yeah, okay, right. So this was the thing, is that in order to maintain his belief that Hashem is perfect and omnipotent, he denies Hashgacha Pratis and he denies God's omniscience. And then we went through the whole chart here, right? So he denied that God is Mashgiach, and that he says, therefore, God doesn't know everything, and he's not Mashgiach on that which he doesn't know, and therefore, like, what happened to Iyov was not an injustice on God's part. Yeah, and so we're trying to understand why Iyov is wrong. Okay, one more point here. Okay, we're just going to set ourselves up for tomorrow. Did I close the thing? No, I didn't. Okay, so let's. I'm going to set us up for tomorrow. Oops, I didn't mean to go through this whole thing again. Hold on.
I really like this.
Venn diagram.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to guess what I'm going to do when we have a fourth person?
Another one.
Vorka diagram.
A square diagram.
It's going to be a 3D Venn diagram.
Oh my god.
Yeah, which I really enjoyed making. All right, but that'll happen when it comes. Okay, so his response to Bildad, and I actually have to think. Let me just give this out now, so we save time. We might not. I think it's funny. This happens every year. I don't want this to take more than one session. So what we might do is we might not read the entire thing. We might just go through the Malbim's interpretation of it, and then if we have time, we'll go back and see it in the words. But this is going to be Iyov's general approach to responding to Bildad, okay? His whole approach boils down to one question. What do you mean? Okay? And what he's going to do is, are you familiar with the, this is going to sound like a Harry Potter spell, the debate move, reductio ad absurdum? You ever heard of this? No? You want to guess what it means? Reductio?
Crazy.
Yeah, absurdum means crazy, and reductio sounds like the word reduction or reduce. So reductio ad absurdum means reduce to absurdity, okay? So it's a move that you can do.
Ben Shapiro uses this.
Yes, he uses this a lot, okay, right? Is what you do is you say, oh, you really believe, not a politician, yeah, he's a,
Oh, did I say politician?
he's a commentator, political commentator, yeah,
like
yeah.
city.
Right. So reductio ad absurdum is, oh, you really believe that we should do X, Y, Z? Well, if you do that, then look at how this is going to lead to absurdity. Oh, but you're going to modify it. You say you really hold this. Well, if you take that to its logical conclusion, it's absurd, you know? So he's going to show if Bildad is correct, that Hashem brings Yisurin on a tzaddik to reward him in the future. This can only happen in one of two ways. And those two ways are going to be divided into 5 ways. And then he's going to show how each of the 5 is absurd. Okay, so just to show you what this looks like, we're not going to start yet. It's going to look like this. Yeah, so it's going to be like intrinsic and extrinsic. What he's going to say to Bildad, do you actually hold that God's reward comes from you suffering? So either it comes intrinsically or extrinsically. And let's just make sure we know what these two terms mean so we don't have to go tomorrow. What is the definition of intrinsic versus extrinsic? Inside, yeah, from within itself. Intrinsic is from within, extrinsic is from without. So for example, if I told you, what would be an example of something that is intrinsically rewarding? Going to sleep early, right? So what's the reward of going to sleep early? You won't be tired, and that comes from sleeping. Now, what would be an example of an extrinsic reward for going to sleep early? Not that your mom gives you a prize. Exactly, good, right? So that's going to be the thing here. That's going to be the setup here is, Bildad, you're telling me that if I suffer, God will reward me. Are you saying that comes about intrinsically, like my suffering directly produces the reward? Or are you saying that I suffer and then God will somehow reward me from outside? Okay, that's going to be his line of questioning. All right, but we'll save that for tomorrow. We have 4 minutes left, though. Anyone have a quick 4-minute Q&A question? I'm going to turn off the recording.
Yeah, it's not quick though.
You can ask the question now, and that at least.
Why did God want